What's up guys, Nick here for Daily Vape TV. Today is Fresh Build Friday, and today we're going to be building a twisted 28 gauge micro coil. We're going to be building it on our Patriot RDA clone, and it's going to be on our Sigelli 30 watt here. So I've been doing all these really complicated builds lately, so I'm just going to take a step back and do a pretty easy one for you. You can either use a drill like this or just twist it by hand. Personal preference, I've done both and they both work just as well. I prefer using the drill because it makes a nice neat wrap on the twisted wire. And we're just going to be doing a regular microcoil today, hopefully shooting for around above 1 ohm, probably 1.1 to 1.3. So I have here a 2-foot long strand of 28 gauge canthal wire, which I have folded in half and made a little loop at the end. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. That's just going to be for tension on the drill end, and we're just going to insert it into the chuck of the drill. Try to get it right in the center as much as possible. Here we go. You're just going to want to crank this down real tight. Next thing you're going to do is grab a pair of pliers and grip the two ends and take out any slack. Make sure there's no slack in your wire. So this is what we are looking at right now, and now we're just going to fire the drill up. Start off a little slower and work your way up. There you go. Just like that, you want it to break off at the end, that way you know it's all ready to go. And here we have our twisted wire, which we're going to build our microcoil off of. And next thing I'm going to do is just clip these ends here, and there you go, twisted 28 gauge. So what I've noticed with previous twisted wire builds, it's a pain in the butt to get these coils nice and neat. So all I'm going to do is just grip it with my pair of pliers here, and I'm going to run a torch over it just to get it nice and hot and glowing. That way it takes a little bit of that springiness out of the wire. Okay, alright, so now we're going to dive down, take a look at our tools, and build her up. So as you can see here, I have my tools all set. I have my Patriot atomizer on top of my ohm reader, 28 gauge twisted canthal wire. I have my tweezers, screwdriver, 14 gauge syringe needle, blunt tip, wire cutters, and a pair of pliers. So the first thing you want to do, just like any other microcoil, is grab your syringe needle and your wire, hold it parallel, and you're going to make one quick wrap about 3/4 of the way around. Then you're going to start wrapping for real, and today we're going to do 8 wraps. Just bring that last one right around facing you and undo your first lead. So there we go. That's just a simple plain old microcoil, but the surface area of this wire is going to be a lot better than any larger gauge wire, and the juice will get all into those little nooks and crannies, and hopefully we'll get some really good flavor out of it. Now I'm going to trim off a little bit of this positive lead here and a little bit of the negative one, just to make it easier to stick through there. Now you take your coil and insert it into your atomizer. I like to get my coils pretty close to the posts, and I just take my pair of pliers here, bring it in. When I get it where I want it, I will tighten down the connections. So there we go, got my coil in place. Now I'm going to take the needle out, trim off the excess wire, and take a reading. If you can see that, it's reading at 0.94, which is a little bit lower than I would like, but when we fire it, hopefully it'll jump up to about 1 ohm. So now that I have it on my Legend 30 watt, I will fire it and fix any hot spots. It's actually glowing pretty good. Still gonna just take my tweezers here and push those coils as tight as I can get them. But now it's reading at 0.8, which I'm okay with. A little bit lower isn't too bad. So as you can see here, I have my wick already cut and pre-rolled at the tip here, and we're just going to insert it into our atomizer. Now that we have our cotton all set, let's juice it up and have a vape. Today I'm going to be using a little bit of Fog's Brew, Tree of Fog. Let's give it a quick test fire here, see how it's vaping. Oh yeah, looks good to me. Can't wait to have a vape. Tons of vapor. The flavor is very crisp. I get a lot of those little subtle notes in the flavor. And I'm vaping this right now at 30 watts, so there's a lot of power going through this one, and it's 30 watts, 4.89 volts, so yeah, this one's chucking for sure. This is a very dense vape too. I think it really attributes to the surface area that this coil has. Each one of those wires wrapped together provides that much more area where the wick actually hits the coil, and it gets that juice delivered to the coil a lot more efficiently. I mean, we're talking about tiny spaces, but I feel like that does make a difference, and I especially learned that with my last coil, the Flat Bastard build. With that one you had 2 strands of 32 with the ribbon wire wrapped around it, and I felt like I could find more out of my flavors than I normally would have with a regular microcoil using a larger gauge wire. One more vape, we'll talk about a little more. Absolutely tons of vapor, which I also can attribute to this juice here, Fog's Brew. They do use a very high VG ratio, but even so, I've used a similar build with just a regular microcoil, and it doesn't produce half as much vapor, and the flavor is very clean. I don't get any cotton flavor out of it, and that really has to do with wicking. So practice your wicks, make sure they're not too tight. If you get a cottony flavor, just rip that wick out and try again. As far as the difficulty of this build, if you can build a microcoil, you can build a twisted wire microcoil. If you have access to a drill, great. If not, just twist them by hand. It's pretty easy. What more can I say? I mean, this coil is just fantastic for being such an easy build. It's great. I love it. Try it out for yourself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, vape on.